Mentioned, my name is Brian Swift. I'm a product manager. I'm supposed to be joined by Ben Mackie, who's our head of engineering, but he just took off in a rush, so I'm not really sure where he's at, but hopefully he'll be joining me on stage. Otherwise, I'll just... So we're going to talk about Confluence Connect. Specifically, we're going to go... But can you hear me? Good? All right, awesome, thank you. Before we get into the platform, there's a few things that I want to highlight about the Confluence product. It's been a really big year, so I think these are important things for you to be aware of as you think through your add-on and what it could be. First is we crossed 100 million pages created. This is obviously just a massive, but I think it speaks to the opportunity each and every one of you have to reach our customers with us. We have customers who are small, teams of less than 5, all the way up to some of the biggest companies in the world. So there's a really big opportunity here. We also announced this week that we're in the process of rolling out a shiny new Confluence. We've gotten a lot of feedback over the years around the look and feel and some of the core navigation experiences of Confluence. We're really excited to bring this out to you and to our customers because we think it's going to create a much more seamless experience with Confluence. We also rolled out collaborative editing to 100% of customers. It's a feature that we've been talking with customers about for a really long time, and we know that you're becoming more collaborative in how you interact within a workplace. And so when you're doing things like meetings, you can actually have your laptop open and work together and collaborate in real time. Mobile. We launched a mobile app last year on both iOS and Android, and we made a ton of progress. You can now create and edit pages directly from the app. And we think this is crucial because you're not always tied to your desk in your workday. So we've listened and we try to make sure we continue to iterate on this. And we announced earlier this week that we're actually going to be rolling out an iPad app as well, which is really exciting. But why are all of you here today? To talk about the platform. And this year, we hit a big milestone. On Confluence Connect, we now have over 100 add-ons available in the marketplace. This curve has really been accelerating over the last 6 to 12 months, and that's due to a lot of you. I see some familiar faces out here. But we're really excited to see this number continue to go up and to work with each and every one of you to build the future of Confluence add-ons. But before we get ahead of ourselves and start talking about the future, I think it's always useful to reflect back and understand the history of Confluence Connect and how we got here. So I think it helps inform what we can do next. So way back in 2014, we launched Confluence Connect. It's a really exciting milestone. We then launched the Content REST API. It was a bit of a mess back then, so we pulled it together to have one content API for all of our customers' needs. We then wanted to make it easier for customers to find your add-ons and your content within Confluence, and so we launched an advanced query language called CQL. Shortly after that, we had launched Macros and Blueprints 2.0, based on a lot of feedback from a lot of people in this room, to make it easier than ever to embed your content into pages and to make page creation even easier so people can get started and understand your add-on in just a matter of seconds. We then, last year, launched custom content. We're going to talk a little bit about this today because I think this is something that's really exciting. Rather than just plugging in around pages or embedding content onto a page, you can actually create an entirely new experience within Confluence. We've seen some really exciting add-ons already in the marketplace built on this, but we're going to walk through some more examples to hopefully get your brain thinking around how you can build on this and create something really exciting for your customers. As we've grown and become a more mature platform, we saw the need from a lot of you to have better documentation around how you can get started, understand some of these things that we've been talking about and we'll talk about today. So we launched a whole new developer portal that has a lot of tutorials, advanced documentation for those who have been building for a while, and we're really excited to continue to invest in that to make it easier for you. Last year, we launched theming. In Confluence, we know that customers like to tailor a space and their entire instance to something that's very personal for them. This could be for branding purposes. It could also just be to have your team's identity and have it stand out within your company. And today we're really excited to talk about workflows. This is a new piece of functionality that we just recently rolled out. We heard from customers that it's always hard to actually create and share documentation to your entire organization. For instance, if you're an HR team and you want to create a new policy, you want an approval process to make sure things roll out smoothly and there isn't any misinformation floating around your organization. So a lot of add-ons can help these customers by using this particular API. We'll go into this in a lot more detail later on. But really, what matters is what's coming next. And we think there's a lot of opportunity. You can see that we've actually have a pretty mature platform now. And so we think it's time that some of those things we were just thinking about back in 2014, you can now actually build today. And there's a huge opportunity. We've heard a lot of customers say quotes very similar to this one. Why aren't there more, all the add-ons that are available in server are also available in cloud? But also in cloud, you can create an entirely new experience. It doesn't just need to be the experiences that customers have come accustomed to on server. But really, if there's one thing you leave here thinking about today and have a better understanding of, it's this particular question. How can you plug into the future of Confluence? And I hope that at the end of this talk, you'll have a much better idea than you did when you got here today. But we all know that the future of work is really hard to predict.
Brian.
Ben. Ben's here.
Yes. Oh.
Come on up.
I've come back from the future. It's a chain reaction of events along the space-time continuum that continue the entire course of history.
Okay, why are you dressed like that?
Don't you know how serious time travel is, Marty? Here's your hat.
Thanks, Ben. All right, so you just got back from the future. What interesting information do you have to share with us?
Well, so the thing is, Brian, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. You can see the future here today.
Okay. So what specifically do you want to talk about?
So all these people, great Scott, look at all these people. I mean, I can see here the future of the platform on Confluence, building add-ons based on all these amazing capabilities that we're talking about here today.
Okay, well, we only have 45 minutes. I appreciate the excitement that you have here, but what are the things that you think we should actually focus on today?
Well, Brian, I think that's why we've got this presentation, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, why don't you let us know what we're going to talk about.
So today, everyone, we're going to talk about 3 themes, trends for building Confluence add-ons on the Confluence Cloud Platform. And so we're going to talk about the cloud and what that means for both creators and consumers of content. We're going to talk about building rich content applications that integrate with Confluence for different teams. And we're going to talk, thirdly, about building integrations for cloud services for the modern integrated world. And then we're going to bring it back together and talk about what it means for you. So as the resident doctor, I at least get to say that today, we're going to talk about cloud creators and consumers. Right, so to make something amazing happen, it can sometimes take a lot of energy. 1.21 trillion gigawatts, right? So, but we've been thinking about how to bring that amazing thing together for different teams in the cloud. And it's not new that you have CMSs and products where one group of people creates content, another group of people consume it. But what we've been thinking about, both within Confluence and with the ecosystem, is how to bring creators and consumers, or what we call like insiders who are working heavily on the content, and outsiders who are collaborating on and accessing that content together. And that problem in the cloud world today is even more multiplied. I mean, you've got geographically dispersed teams, you've got many companies working together, small companies working together, freelancers and so on. So it just makes it even more important to connect these groups together. So here's one specific example at a global level of content that's being put out there for a large group of outsiders to consume. And then even locally within a company, you may have a team like a HR team that's building a HR portal, and it's more important than a typical space in Confluence to really tailor that and provide great experiences for consumers. So for instance, people policies and procedures and so on. HR teams want other people in the company to access those really easily. So what we're really proud to announce today about the latest pattern to build on Confluence add-ons with is content workflows. And there are 2 aspects to that. There is how we've improved management of versions of content in Confluence, and secondly, how we're enabling publishing within spaces. So let's go through that. So in Confluence, pages are version. So let's say you have version 3 of a page. But content isn't just about the page itself. It's about all the different kinds of content that can be embedded in that page. So let's say version 3 of this page has, say, version 1 of a diagram and version 2 of a video. What we have improved in Confluence is the ability to map those versions between the contained content and the content itself. So let's say you do a 4th revision of that page, and that content, that maps and stores within that page's storage format that it's actually version 5 of the diagram and version 3 of the video that's embedded in that new page. And then, I mean, it's a bit technical, but like you can hit up that API, that REST API, and you can interrogate that embedded page relationship information and versioning. Where it really becomes valuable in terms of an experience provided to users is Confluence, using Confluence's rendering API. You can now render that, and if you were rendering like a prior version of the page, you can be sure that you can present an interface to the user that has that exact snapshot all the way through, including embedded content, so they can have confidence that they were looking at that version of the content as it was saved at that time. So that's version management. But then the next step going forward from that is publishing of spaces. And we've enabled that through a copy page tree API. So you know how I talked about insiders and outsiders? So let's say a company is managing a space and they're using that to create a series of content that they want to serve up to a large group of consumers within the organization. Using the copy page tree API, they can do so. And there could be some kind of function published, say, to make that happen. And then consumers within the organization can consume that different space. But we also know a common requirement is to have particular security permissions on the space that you're publishing to. And so we've added a space permissions API to do that so add-ons can secure those spaces that they're creating for consumers. Another pattern that I believe Brian might have mentioned earlier is theming, which we launched last year, and that's come a long way as well, where you can build add-ons that are it starts off simple like this in terms of how you define a theming add-on with a descriptor there, but that then allows an add-on to customize the look and feel of Confluence and provide that flexibility to users using the theme configuration user interface to select that thing that your add-on provides. And that then turns into a reflection of a new look and feel of pages. Another way that you can extend content in a way that helps connect creators and consumers is the byline extension. So that's that gray text up the top of a page, and you can put custom extensions to that to create really useful metadata to pages. Think of it as effectively a glance for Confluence pages. Once again, it's very simple to create an add-on with a descriptor that defines a byline. And don't forget also, I mean, feel free to take photos, but a lot of this is also on our developer website with tutorials as well. So yeah, don't fret if I'm going pretty quickly through some of these examples. It's really just to get a feel for how simple it is to create these kinds of extensions. And one example here, as you can see up the top right there, is you can extend the byline and show the readers of that page the approval status of the page that they're viewing. Right, so approved. All right, so the takeaway here is how can your add-on connect creators and consumers, insiders and outsiders? You know, what's your strategy for making that happen? You know, there's a new world. It's not CMS anymore. It's connecting the people creating the content with those who are consuming it. And so if we want to try and just seed you with a few thoughts or ideas here, you can think about a number of things here. You can think about improving the way content can be controlled and the workflows. You can think about different publishing use cases to different sources. Maybe it's bringing in a whole bunch of different content together. Maybe it's hosting online documentation. Maybe it's targeting service teams more. I mentioned HR a bit, but there are plenty of others within an organization as well. And then even bringing that analytics piece back so that it's giving the creators of content, the insiders, that insight as to how users are interacting with the content that they're creating, increasing the value to the creator. Well, Brian, Marty, Brian, over to you for content apps.
All right, thanks, Doc. Content apps. What do we mean by this? It's really, as I said earlier, about creating an entirely new experience, not just putting something or a piece of content onto a page. So as we've been talking a lot about cloud and what it means for Confluence, we've been really forced to think about what are the core components of Confluence, and are those the same things that we think are going to actually drive content collaboration in the future? So today, as many of you know, if you've used Confluence, there's really two main things that drive content collaboration. There's pages, so the ability to write stuff down, embed various forms of content onto a page. You can comment, collaborate on that page. And then spaces, which are all about organizing those pages in a way that makes it sense for you and your team. This could be for project collaboration, it could be for reference documentation, or just using it as a wiki for team knowledge. But I think the right way to think about this, and how we've started to think about it ourselves, is that our team is always going to be focused on building the core foundation of collaboration. What I mean by that is something that every team needs. Whether you're a software team, an IT team, whether you work in HR or a software developer, we think everyone really needs to write stuff down, share information, and learn from one another, and collaborate to get stuff done. And that's what pages can serve. But really, there's an opportunity to build on top, to build a more focused, unique experience in a content app experience. This could be, for example, extending Confluence to create a CRM tool for a sales team. It could be for a recruiting team. Maybe they want some specific functionality. Just like Pages, they want to keep track of leads and candidates that they're reaching out to. So let me show what this actually would look like in Confluence. So this is the new redesigned Confluence, for those who haven't seen it before. And what you see here is obviously a page tree and some new navigation on the left-hand side here. So let's dive in a little bit more specifically at what this means and what it could mean for you. So we have an overview, so a space home. We have pages, and we have blogs. So pages and blogs are two pieces of content that we in Confluence create. We then have add-ons that can plug in right here. These are the Atlassian owned and operated add-ons, team calendars, and Confluence questions. And what's great about custom content is that those add-ons can actually be built on custom content today, and that is the UX treatment in the product. For those that are interested, there's going to be a talk tomorrow by Caroline Bartle, one of the senior PMs on Confluence. She's going to talk through how we actually use custom content to build Confluence questions for the cloud. So if you're interested in getting a deep dive into how we've actually used this ourselves, I would encourage you to attend that tomorrow afternoon. So what this can mean is your add-on can actually plug in right here, right alongside pages, blogs. It could be prototypes, if you're a design tool, for instance. And when you plug in there, just like we do for spaces and pages, as you can see, we have a page tree, which is our way of organizing pages. You can create a whole new experience. This is your canvas to actually organize whatever it is you're building, whatever type of content you have. This is something we've seen a couple add-on vendors already ship to the marketplace, and it's really exciting to see the creativity and the type of experiences that people can enable with this. So let's dive into how this actually works, and I think this is more suited for the doc.
Thanks, Brian. So custom content. Once again, a very simple descriptor, and there are really two key areas, I should say, for building a custom content add-on. There is the actual structure of what objects are being represented in your application, and then there's the UI behind it and the screens that your add-on is providing to facilitate that user interface. With the API support, you really got to just think about the hierarchy of content. So it isn't just like flat content within a space. I mean, Confluence has pages and comments as a hierarchy. Comments are effectively contained within pages that are contained within spaces. Questions are questions contained within spaces, and questions themselves contain answers. So let's say we're going to build an add-on, an idea generation add-on, or an idea capturing add-on, that kind of thing. So we might want to have ideas as an object that are contained within spaces. And you might say vote on those ideas, and then comment on those ideas also. And so how we actually define those concepts is through the descriptor here. You can see where we're defining the body type of storage and the supported container types of space, and this is where we're actually defining what that idea, how that idea object is structured for Confluence to understand and integrate in with the APIs and storage and so on. So this is my professional design for my ideas add-on. I've called it Game Changer. Available for any marketing advice afterwards if anyone wants that. But you can have complete control over the experience on the right-hand side here, and you can render here a bit of an experience when there's nothing there, but then also a collection experience for all your custom content objects. And you have complete control over that, so you can render that. It could be a list, it could be a tree, and that's what's really important too. It really should be tailored to what you're trying to achieve with your custom content add-on. And from there, you can include the create experience for new objects that are for your add-on, so new ideas in this case. And so I wanted to point out as well that it isn't necessarily text, you know. So yes, it could be text-based objects, so an idea you would type in a description around the idea, but it could also be rich content that you're building with custom content applications as well. So it could be a diagram, it could be prototype, it could be any number of rich content types that you're facilitating. And as Brian mentioned, that integrates back into Confluence, which means all of those things are searchable. It just works in terms of how you can then filter on those content types within the Confluence search experience. And you will also see it as a menu item on the space in Confluence. And so here is how we're hooking up the screens to the different UI elements. So you would integrate the list, as well as the actual view of the idea. And Matthew Jensen is talking about that as well, if you're interested to see that. So I wanted to jump into this. So really the value add, I think, is once you've implemented all of that, you can then kind of level up and go, well, it isn't just about the content itself, it's about how we're engaging users with the content. So we might want to think about gamification, how do we get people creating and collaborating with that content. And so what we have done in the product with this is Confluence Questions, if you're familiar with that product. If not, you might get some ideas from that for your own add-ons. So there's a bit of a kudos or karma system in Confluence Questions where people who answer a lot of questions build up that cred, and then there's other ways of drawing people into using that product and collaborating with that content. So think of that for your idea as well. Right, so the key takeaway here is what new interactive content types do your customers need? And I'm going to hand back to Brian to...
Thanks, Ben. So Ben did a great job of giving an overview of how it works, and hopefully that gave you some ideas to start thinking in your head what this could be. As I mentioned, you can go after completely new functional areas within an organization and build really custom solutions for them that are pretty niche. You can take over the experience and you do things like Ben showed with the kudos feature in Confluence Questions to actually drive engagement, get more eyeballs looking at your content every single day. There's a lot of really great opportunities here that we're excited about. Okay, our last topic that Ben brought back from the future is integrated services. So as I mentioned in cloud, the dynamics of collaboration are changing. There's a proliferation of tools, specifically content tools, that teams are using across their organization. And what we found is that people don't just collaborate on a page anymore. Of course, that's a very common way to share information. But when you look across a team, whether it's a software development team, an HR team, a legal team, IT teams, whatever it is, there's a whole different type of places that people like to do their work. What we found is that sometimes can break down the fabric of collaboration within an organization. So while you may be doing some really great work and asking people to come look at it, it creates these barriers around collaboration where people are trying to go, they have to go log into another service, they have to go set up an account, whatever it may be. It creates a really difficult barrier to actually pushing work forward, which is really, at the end of the day, what matters. So we really just want to break those things down so all of the content can live in one place, be a sort of a hub of collaboration, because an idea is made so much better when everyone's kind of chipping in, adding comments, giving feedback, and so on. And we really believe, no matter what type of service it is, that if content is worth collaborating on, it belongs in Confluence. And a lot of you here might actually run one of these services. And I think there's a really great opportunity to get your service easily into Confluence onto some of those 100 million plus pages and have people actually start getting eyeballs and using your product. So the primary way to do this today is using macros. Macros are basically a way to take a piece of content and embed it onto a page within Confluence. It's one of our oldest APIs and something that is very, very popular. To get started, this is actually a descriptor taken from one of the tutorials online. Super straightforward. This one is for actually a Giphy integration. It's something that I know our product team likes to use a lot to spice up the workday a little bit. But this is really all it takes. It's super, super straightforward. This tutorial to actually build this takes less than 10 minutes. I would encourage you to try it out if you haven't already. So this is what that could look like. You get your favorite GIFs right front and center on a page. And here's an actual add-on that's live in the marketplace today, built by Meister Labs. So they have a service called MindMeister. It's all about mapping, doing mind maps. It's a really great way to get ideas and work together as a team. And because they've built a macro, these mind maps can easily find their way into Confluence. And so that really great conversation, that brainstorm session you have, is in a way memorialized in Confluence. It doesn't get lost. And it's there for everyone in an organization to come in, see, and learn from. This is an example of what I meant of breaking down those barriers of collaboration. Let's look at another example. This is the Jira issue macro. Our products work really well together. We strive to work together with the Jira team to make sure that there's a really great experience. And so this is actually showing Jira issues and the status of them really easily. You can just throw this onto a page. It renders in a particular way that's very recognizable to the end user and actually gives you a state of what the issue is at. So again, taking something from another service, putting it onto a page really helps the page come to life and push work forward. So I think the question that you should be asking yourself as it relates to integrated services and that trend is, how can you get all team members, not just a particular functional area, in one place collaborating using your service? There's a ton of opportunities here. Just to name a few, you can drive collaboration, as we said, get people adding comments and having a conversation about your service and your content. We see that not just with cloud, but with teams being globally distributed, there's a lot of different services that people rely on, and so we think there's another opportunity to really get that into Confluence. And finally, just making it easier for people to discover your service. I'm sure many of you, if you have a service like this, has a particular persona or customer that you target specifically. But if you can build this macro, they can share that with the rest of their team, and suddenly everyone in the organization is aware of your service and can get value from it. It can be really powerful. All right, so we went through those 3 trends that have been brought back from the future. But we'd like to close out by talking about what this actually means for you. So Ben started with this quote, and I think it's a really good one, that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. And the way I like to think about that is the future of Confluence is in this room today. All of you have the opportunity to grab one of these trends, build the next great add-on for Confluence that's going to help teams really collaborate together. This is something that we're excited to work with each and every one of you on to help define what this future is.
And we have a series of patterns to build Confluence Connect add-ons. And these patterns are described on our developer experience at developer.atlassian.com, so you can get there, and we have a number of tutorials there to take you through these patterns, but also some guidance in terms of the type of add-ons you can think about building based on these patterns. So I encourage you to check out developer.atlassian.com and try those tutorials and explore those patterns to build your amazing future add-on.
And when you leave the talk, I would encourage each of you to think back and try to understand what it is that you and your team can see that no one else in this room or even in the world can. specifically the cloud and the interaction between content creators and collaborators. Ben talked about insiders and outsiders. What opportunities do you have to build an experience that will allow people to share information in a way that is more aligned with their workflow? For content apps, what specific experience can you provide a niche market that's really going to take a whole different type of collaboration and get it into Confluence? And finally, what services can you integrate into the product? What are things that you can bring into Confluence and get more eyeballs and collaboration happening with your service? So Ben, I guess it's only best if we close out. Is there any words that you have from the future that you want to end with?
Well, Brian, if my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
Okay. Thanks, Doc. I would encourage all of you to think about this, try to understand where you can fit into the future of Confluence Connect, and build the next great add-on on our platform so you have your place in the future of Confluence and team collaboration. So with that, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Doc and myself. We have some time for questions, so please fire away.
See you in the future.